Well, since you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. Okay.
We're here. Ma.
Okay. All right, let's get to it. What's up, y'all? It is Tia. I'm sitting here with Dani. This is the very first episode of Unfinished Business. We are here, finally. We've been talking about it for a while, right? 2020 been a hell of a year. And, Unfinished Business, what it is an entity, right? And I started Rate My College Coaches at the beginning of 2020, actually. This idea has been in my head for a very long time. I was getting everything together for Rate My College Coaches. And I was like, I want to add an entertainment piece to it, right? So I thought of Unfinished Business. The name, it may change. I don't know. I just thought of it. And, I got writers on there. We got the blog going. I was like, I like to hear myself talk. So let's get Unfinished Business on here, right? And, Dani, we played basketball together at IU. And we know our shit, right, when it comes to sports. So we wanted to bring some fresh faces to the scene, women that actually know what they're talking about, and you're going to like what we have to say, or you may not, but you will respect it. So that is Unfinished Business. We're going to give it to you straight, no chaser. And we're just glad to be here.
Super glad to be here.
For sure. I do want to just housekeeping, mention our sponsors, which is just my stuff, right, because I paid for it. We got Rate My College Coaches, as I told you. That will be the biggest database of student-athlete generated reviews of head coaches in the NCAA, NJCAA, and the NAIA, and then also 21 Future, premium streetwear brand coming in 2021. So with that, I want to introduce Dani, or let her introduce herself. Very good friend of mine. Let's go, Dani.
What's up, y'all? I am Dani, or Danielle Williams. Like Tia said, played with her at IU. And I'm, trying to shift into career mode, trying to get into broadcasting, sports, and everything like that. So this is right up my alley. This is everything that, I'm hoping to do right now. And just being surrounded with sports. I mean, basketball is my main thing, but we're here to talk about it all, from X's and O's all the way down to mental health, coaches, everything. We want to cover it all. We want to talk about it all. Culture, everything, in between. So I think we should get right into it.
Yeah. Hey, ESPN, I hope you watch it, because she's going to be your next big face. We need that. Hey.
Period.
Yeah, I bet they're not used to people talk about sports, talk about period.
Right. You're right. Let me pull it together.
Hey, no, just look, be who you are at the end of the day. So,
right.
All right, we're going to get right into it, right? So, this happened, I think it's been over a week, right? The big story is the Clippers lose in the second round to the Nuggets. And I've been talking about it all week. I don't know about you. What do you think about that? I want to hear your thoughts first.
I think it's pathetic that Kawhi Leonard and PG, your two stars, right, combined for 24 points in a Game 7. You have LeBron James. If he goes out and does that, his whole legacy is being questioned. Everything, his rings, everything. People attack LeBron for, walking down the street the wrong way. He gets criticized for it all. So if he goes out in a Game 7 and doesn't overperform, forget performing. If he doesn't overperform, he's criticized. And, I would never compare PG to LeBron, because I think that's, they're not even in the same conversation. And he clearly just made that very clear for everybody to see. But I mean, that just goes to show that, the Clippers, they wanted to say that they, were the new LA team, and they were going to run LA. And, especially I think the Lakers are going to take it all. And so I think that'll be a big tell-all of what, the level that LeBron James is on versus the level Kawhi Leonard, PG, all of those other players that they love to compare LeBron to are at.
It's actually funny that you say, what they were doing at the beginning of the season when they were saying, we're the new LA. And I actually vividly remember a video when Kawhi and PG actually got traded to the Clippers, and you had Patrick Beverly and Lou Williams. They did like an Instagram post, and they're like, "Don't talk to me." They were super excited, as they should have been. And so all of the hype that was coming into that season, right? It wasn't just the fans building that hype; it was also them too. So I was disappointed when I saw PG in the post-game press saying, I think we all knew internally that this wasn't a championship year or bust, type year, or we knew that our chemistry was off. And I understand chemistry, right? If chemistry is off, you are only going to go so far. But at the same point in time, they didn't back up what they were talking at the beginning of the season. And it's like, okay, now that we lose, we're going to backtrack a bit and say, I don't know if the rest of the team felt like that, but I thought it wasn't, Paul George saying that pissed me off, because it's just like, okay, you guys were building up all this hype the whole season. Even in the way that they were playing, right? They were, we're Mavericks fans. They were trying to bully us.
Right.
That whole series. And they did a little bit, and, we need a little bit more people surrounding us, because Luka and Porzingis were the only ones that were kind of like going toe-to-toe with them. But they were bullying people the whole season. Sorry, the whole series in the playoffs. Then you lose in the second round, and you're like, I think we all knew we weren't this wasn't a championship or bust year. I mean, shouldn't every year be a championship year or bust, especially when you have those types of players? And, when it comes to, like, Kawhi, he played terrible. Piss poor, I do think that he does give his all every time he plays, you know what I mean? He's been put into a role that he didn't necessarily ask for. Kawhi, he's a humble player, right? It seems like, at least when I watch him, he doesn't care about all the outside stuff. He just wants to play the game. I think it's really been the fans surrounding it, as he's won 2 championships so far. Has it been 2?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2 championships. In the way that he's been playing, they kind of thrusted him into that role. And I agree, when LeBron plays like shit, like, they won't let him live it down. Mm-mm. If he would have performed like they did in Game 7, people will be talking about it 10 years down the line. Promise you they wouldn't forget it. But I think the reason why Kawhi maybe gets slack sometimes is because he didn't necessarily ask to be in that position, right? It's not saying, though, that he doesn't need to show up, because he does. He did all of that, right, to get Paul George and all of them to the LA Clippers, just to lose to the Nuggets in round 2. So, I don't know. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, and going off that, too, just like going over to PG, I remember, I think it was the first game or the first series of the playoffs, and he went out and had like 8 points or 6 points off like 30 minutes of playing time. And
Pandemic P.
So disrespectful. And he came out and said that he was, struggling with mental health issues in the bubble and stuff like that. And so I immediately, gave him, okay, that benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, that must be tough being away from your family and everything like that. And people just assume because you're in the NBA and you're making all this money that what could you be sad or upset or have mental health issues about? And so when he performed that way, at first I was like, okay, yeah, he deserves the benefit of the doubt. He came out and had like a 20-plus point game the next following game. So we were like, okay, PG's back. So it's like, it's kind of hard for me to kind of figure out how to, like look at him, you know what I mean? Because, you tell me, okay, yeah, I only scored 8 points this game. I'm having mental health issues. And then, you come out, you have a 20-plus point game. Okay, great. And then you perform like this in a Game 7, and he's like, oh, well, we didn't think we were going to be a championship team. And it's just, to me, and I'm not trying to discredit what he said about his mental health, because I completely. However, I just have a hard time kind of like looking at it in the bigger picture. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because is it your mental health that is the reason why you weren't performing in these games? And then this game, it's because we weren't a championship team. It's just like, which excuse is it going to be today? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, with Paul George, I don't give him any slack, mainly because of what he talks, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if he came up with the name Playoff P, and but he damn sure kind of embraced it.
Yeah.
And so you can't call yourself Playoff P, and you come in these playoffs and you kind of like half-ass it in a way. And I know you're gonna have your ups and downs, right? Being an NBA player and things like that. But one thing that I always stand on is, win or lose, I think that you should stand tall in who you are. So when you're winning, be the same person.
Yeah.
When you're losing, don't make any excuses.
Yeah.
Because just like you're saying, you know what I'm saying? Not saying that the mental health, that's outside of the mental health.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I understand that's a touchy subject. But with just all of the other excuses that he kind of had, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like.
And okay. You talk shit to Dame, and
he was on his ass.
You talk shit to me, you're going to have to stand on it. You know what I mean? And he didn't. He really didn't.
At all. And neither did Pat Bev. Like, when they lost, Dame and CJ McCollum was going in.
Yo,
They were
Twitter
going
blew up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually didn't expect it. I think a lot of people in the league were kind of like, that's a big aha moment.
It
Because
is.
it's like, when when you poke out your chest like that, I hope you back it up.
Man, I hope y'all both drop a 30 ball, but you go out and you shit the bed, you can join me in Mexico. I still got a ticket for you. Come on. Yeah, like, come on, pull up.
In fact, he definitely still ain't said shit.
Yeah.
I haven't seen, I don't know if he spoke in the post-game press, but I don't know, I got a kick out of that. I thought that was
It was hilarious.
I was crying laughing when it crying laughing.
Definitely.
But we say that to say, though, I don't want to discredit the Nuggets whatsoever. Because
Oh, no.
They came out to play. Jamal Murray, from the opening tip, he just went crazy. He had 40 points and shot 58% from the field. That is
efficient.
Nuts.
That's
as a point
efficient.
Guard, though.
Yeah.
You normally see post players, their percentages should be up there, right? Because they're closer to the basket.
Right.
But to shoot almost 60% from the field on 40 points, I was just like, damn.
That's efficient.
I don't remember him doing that in Kentucky.
Yeah.
At all. Nikola Jokic, he had 15 points, which doesn't seem like much on paper, but this man had 22 rebounds and 13 assists. Like, that's a crazy triple-double.
It is.
So, shout out to them at the end of the day. They were the better team. Clippers, they had a 3-1 lead. They lost it. It's not like we haven't seen that before, but that was their second time coming back down 3-1.
It was.
So I definitely don't think the Lakers should kind of take them lightly in a way. They're a young team. They play really hard.
No, I think they definitely have a chance, especially with a player like Jamal Murray. Mm-hmm. And truthfully, game one is game one. Everyone is still trying to get a feel for it. I thought that the Lakers would have a much harder time guarding Jamal Murray. But I also know that what type of player Jamal Murray is, and like you just said, he's extremely efficient. Yeah. And I think that he's going to turn it up game two. And I also think that Jamal Murray has found something to play for. When he came out and he had Breonna Taylor and George Floyd on his shoes, and he was super emotional and super just bought into I'm playing for them. Yeah. Like that even made me feel like, yo, you know what I mean? Like you gotta, once you find something that what you're doing it for, you turn it up that extra notch. And I don't think, just like you said, I don't think the Nuggets are to be slept on. I think Jokic is a beast. Yeah. Like if I could model my game right now after somebody, I would want to play like Jokic. Like completely, you're doing it all. You're rebounding. You're getting assists. You're doing what a big man is supposed to do and more. You know what I mean? So I don't think the Nuggets are to be slept on at all. But I also think that LeBron is pissed off about that MVP. 16 votes.
We're gonna get to that.
16 votes for LeBron. Year 17. Are you joking? Like, is that a joke?
We gonna get to that.
My bad. Let me slow my roll.
Look, we gonna get to that. I just wanted to, finish off with this Lakers-Nuggets matchup, right? So they took game one. Like you said, the Nuggets, they're not a sleeper team, and you saw the comments with Michael Porter. He was kind of annoyed. He shouldn't have did that, right? Especially Murray and Jokic are the reason why they're here now. But I will say the young man, he did kind of back it up that next game after he made those comments. You know, they were putting the ball in his hands a little bit, and he did kind of produce. With him, it's just more so bringing up that consistency, and I think that they are going to need other people to step up in this matchup because in game one, the Lakers had 5 people in double figures. And you and I both know we played when another team has 5 people that are scoring 10 points or more, it's really hard to beat that team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially when you only have, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Jokic and Murray were the only ones in double figures. Maybe Grant was as well. Paul Millsap, he wasn't able to score as much, but I noticed that they had him on Anthony Davis a lot. I don't think they're going to win if they keep Paul Millsap on him. I don't know if there's an answer for Anthony Davis. I mean, he had 37 points that first game. He was, unstoppable. But I think you may want to put Jokic on him and maybe put Millsap on LeBron James just because he's a little more stocky, it's a matchup discrepancy for both, but I just don't think Paul Millsap can get the job done with AD because he's just so long.
Right.
And if he gets deep enough, it's just a matter of kind of shooting over him. I think Millsap will be aggressive with him, and sometimes Anthony Davis is always on the ground. I don't know why. I would like to see him, kind of bulk up a little bit more,
right,
and stay on his feet. But I don't know. I don't think Millsap is going to be the person. Maybe he'll prove me wrong tonight, but we'll see what you think about that.
Yeah, no, I definitely I know what you mean, and I feel like, especially with LeBron being in year 17, he's not as aggressive offensively as he's been, and even, I mean, especially in this playoffs, he's just not. He's more of a pass first. I mean, he's going out getting 10 plus assists a night, you know, so he's feeding Anthony Davis. He wants Anthony Davis to go get those 37 points. Yeah. Let me just get my cool little 15 to 20, you know, so if he's not being ultra aggressive offensively, Paul Millsap can, you know, contain that versus containing Anthony Davis, who you know is looking to score almost every time he touches the ball.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. It'll be interesting to see that. I want to see how the Nuggets kind of like bounce back.
Right.
The scoreboard at the end didn't really show how good or not. They didn't play great. They weren't getting back on defense, and I think we all know that. But I just want to see kind of what adjustments that they may make on that. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. But before we move on, who do you think is going to win, and what do you think the numbers are going to be? You think Lakers in 4, Lakers in 5?
I said Lakers in 4, and I hate to even disrespect the Nuggets like that because I have a lot of respect for them. But I just have to give credit to LeBron, and like I said, I think that he's pissed about this MVP voting. And I mean, LeBron can't carry the whole Lakers team with him, but you know, versus that first game in the playoffs to now, their bench is playing much better. You know what I mean? And LeBron isn't having to do as much. Like I said, he's not having to go out and score 30 points for them to get the win, you know? Yeah. So with LeBron, you know, if LeBron decides to turn up tonight and get a 40 ball, you know, he can whenever he wants, whenever he chooses is when I feel like LeBron could turn up. So LeBron could turn up the rest of these 3 games out of the series and sweep the Nuggets. But I say Lakers in 5. If I had to just be super, super, like, fair, I'd say Lakers
so
in 5.
Nuggets will get 1 game. I agree with you. I think that they could possibly take them to a game 6. The reason why I say that is LeBron, you know, I love that he's trying to get the ball to AD and have him kind of go off like that. But I do think, and this is kind of like one of my things with LeBron, I think he's a great player, and I love watching him play. I think the thing that separates him from the Kobe's and the Michael Jordans, though,
say it,
is that remember what you said about overperform. He does need to overperform. In fact, when I watch LeBron play, I expect him to have 30 points, at least 10 assists. You know what I mean? And I know he plays coy. He wants to get everybody involved. And maybe that's just because that's the type of player that I am too. But it's like, LeBron, I want you to ball hog sometimes.
Right.
You know, especially when it comes down to like being in the clutch. I think and he can do that, right? He just prefers not to. And that's probably one of my biggest concerns with him is that he doesn't always do that. So, I mean, I think when he does that, he's unstoppable.
Absolutely.
Who's going to stop him? You know what I mean? He's, with his 3-point game, right, he's gotten to a point where he's a force to be reckoned with outside the 3-point line, right? And then obviously when he drives and he's comfortable and all that, he can get to the basket at will. So if I had LeBron's prowess, if I had LeBron's stature, I would be going to the basket. And I would be talking shit the whole game.
Y'all gonna have to stop me.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe he's just all about like body preservation too, because this is his 17th year.
17.
So, you know, maybe you have to treat your body differently.
Right.
I wouldn't know anything about that. You know, I haven't played professionally for 18 years or 17 years. So maybe that's the reason why he's kind of like that. And, you know, when you kind of think about it, it is smart. It's just at the same point in time, it's like, Brian, they be out here playing with your name. Like,
yeah.
Who you is in this batch.
Yeah, he definitely. And I mean, I will die on the hill that Jordan is Jordan and then LeBron to me. And it's just like you said, like, and even Kobe. Kobe was a dog. Kobe was not about to, you know, go out and get 15 points unless he just shot terribly that night. You know what I mean? And Kobe was never a pass first player. We all know that, you know? So it's like, and I mean, like I know I have the most immense respect for LeBron. However, I just wish that he would kind of turn it up more often. But like you said, it is year 17, so it's kind of hard to say. Like, dang, we wish LeBron could turn up, because he's done it this season where he'll go and get a 35, 40-point game, and that's huge. But to him, he's like, if AD is gonna go out and do it, and AD is what, like 26,
in his prime.
Yeah, then I'm gonna feed you. I'm gonna get my 10 assists and I'm chilling. But versus me going out and trying to get 30, so. It's hard to say, but I do wish LeBron kind of would turn up, and honestly, fingers crossed that he turns it up tonight, because I love watching Bron when he goes off like that.
And when he do go off, you would think MVP, right?
Yeah.
So that's gonna segue us into our next conversation.
Ooh.
He's pissed off, right? And I'm kind of pissed off too, right?
Yeah.
Giannis Antetokounmpo, he won MVP for the second year in a row. This year has been a little interesting, you know what I mean, with COVID and all the other shit that's been going on. But I just really, and maybe it's because the voting or, them announcing MVP is still while the season is happening, and normally it's afterwards, correct?
Right.
But I just have a problem with an MVP being named who is not playing.
At home. He's at home.
And he's over in the East and didn't even make it. No disrespect to the Heat and the Celtics, because they're great teams, but you're the MVP and your team doesn't even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, the LeBron-less Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
I have a huge problem with that.
Yeah.
And then the numbers come out. There's 101 people voted. LeBron only got 16 of those votes. What's your take? Like, why do you think that is?
It's so hard for me to say, because I'm voting LeBron, if I'm being honest. And I want to kind of bring up the comments that Jay Williams made about, well, maybe Giannis is a Scottie Pippen and he needs a Jordan, right?
Right.
Now, we don't even have to get all the way into that, but it's just a simple fact that, you make a comment like that about a player, you know what I mean? And then he goes out and gets MVP the same year. Like, that doesn't correlate to me personally. And we all know LeBron doesn't need, anybody to be an MVP, to be a great player. Yeah. And I don't think Giannis necessarily does either, but Giannis can't bring the ball down the floor and, create and do all of those things. He's just, that's not his game.
He works his ass off.
Yeah.
He do the same thing.
He does. And I love Giannis. I do. I love him as a player. I feel like he's a great guy, great family, all those things.
Giannis.
I do actually. But I just can't. I can't understand that, how LeBron James, year 17, gets 16 votes out of 101. I can't.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to play a clip.
Pissed me off. That's my true answer. It pissed me off because votes. That's what pissed me off more than anything. I'm not saying that the winner wasn't deserving of the MVP, but that pissed me off. And I finished second a lot in my career, either from championship, now 4 times as the MVP. Like I said, I never came to this league saying let me be MVP or be a champion. I've always said I just want to get better and better every single day, and those things take care of yourself. There's some things that's just out of my hands, some things you can't control, but it pissed me off. I don't know how much we are really watching the game of basketball, or we just in the narration mode, the narrative.
Obviously, and I'm going to say something afterwards about this when we wrap up this conversation, right? So he's pissed off, and I think deservedly so, right? I mean, I don't think he should get MVP just because he's LeBron.
Right.
But at the same point in time, do the Lakers make it to where they are without LeBron? No. Are the Lakers likely going to win the NBA championship? Yes. So you basically have the best team in the league. And if he's the player that they can't live without, the best team in the league, and if he's the player that they can't live without, I think that makes him the MVP MVP in my book, and just what he brings to the league in general. You know what I mean? We can talk about outside the court, but just on the court, the Lakers aren't going to be who they are without LeBron James. And he's a great teammate, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people like playing with him. I think they like that he gets everyone involved. And I think he has a right to be pissed off.
I think what he said about, are you just following the narrative? Are you just following the majority? And that's kind of where my brain went to. It's like, everyone talks about Giannis. And last year, I think Giannis absolutely had an MVP season. Absolutely did. This year, no. Like you said, they didn't even make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Right.
I'm not going to go vote Devin Booker for MVP. You know what I mean? And Devin Booker is a hell of a player. Had an amazing bubble performance. He's at home.
Yeah.
Why is he the most valuable player? Exactly. How is he the most valuable player? That doesn't make sense to me. I'm glad that he's pissed off. I hope that he plays pissed off tonight. That's all I can hope for because, like you said, people just play on LeBron's top a lot. Playing on his top. And I don't get it. Like, it's like, do you see what this man does day in and day out? Yep. And you're 17 at that? Like, it's like, the disrespect is real. So I just hope that. And I know LeBron isn't the type of man, I feel like, who, really just necessarily cares about, what they think or whatever. He knows, LeBron James knows who he is. He knows what he's done for the game. He could retire tomorrow and LeBron would have a great legacy, but I also think that, he kind of takes that and the little, I don't know if you saw the clip of the little face he made at the, like that got me live. That turns me up. Like, I love seeing that out of Bron and just in general, like. Just a little bit. So I hope he turns it up tonight.
Yeah, one thing I want to say, and it didn't show it in this clip, but he went on a little bit in that same clip, and he was saying how with the voting, and I never really paid attention to the voting, right? You either get it right or you don't. I don't get into the numbers as much. And he said something about back in 2016 or something like that, or maybe it was before then, he could have been MVP and also Defensive Player of the Year at the same time, at the same year. And he said that Marc Gasol won Defensive Player of the Year, but made all second-team defense.
I saw that. I did see that.
And, I don't look at things like that until he, mentioned it. I'm like, what sense does that make?
None.
That don't make no type of sense. How are you all Defensive Player of the Year and you don't even make the first team?
Right.
So that right there tells me they need to look at the way that they vote and at least make it make sense, because that shit don't make sense whatsoever. And I wish they would have spoke about that more when it happened, because I had no idea. I don't really pay attention to the awards and things like that. I'm just into who wins the championship at the end of the day. But when you say stuff like that, and it's like, okay, does a Billboard Top 100 even mean that much anymore, right? If people are just paying for their spots, or does the MVP award even mean that much anymore if people aren't even really watching what's going on, and then half the people don't even know about basketball like that anyway.
Right.
He deserves to be pissed off. Now, I will say, I know they asked him, but as a player, we're teammates, right? How do you feel that he's speaking on a personal award, doing like a team effort if they're all trying to go and win the championship? Does that bother you at all, or do you not even think about it that way?
It doesn't bother me because it's LeBron. LeBron James fan. It just, and especially when you're on that level, you're in the NBA, you have to, you have to answer those questions. You have to talk about those sort of things. Now, in our case, that's a different story, playing college basketball.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into that though. However, I think, and what you mentioned about, some of those people that vote don't necessarily have the credentials we feel like to vote. And that kind of, I don't know if you saw, Maria Taylor was trending yesterday on Twitter because she was a part of the voting for the All-NBA team, and she left Anthony Davis off of the first team and second team All-NBA. And, I'm the biggest Maria Taylor stan. Right. Love her. She's on, her face is everywhere. Yeah. And she said, I made a clear mistake. I completely forgot about Anthony Davis to even include him in first team and second team All-NBA. anybody who watches basketball knows Anthony Davis is first team to me, or second team, whichever one you pick. At least one or the other. So for her leaving them off, people were calling for her job. People were like, "Oh my gosh, why does she even have a vote?"
They do that mainly though because she's a woman.
Because she's a woman,
right?
you know, and it's like there are plenty of women who have votes on those, you know, Rachel Nichols and, you know, all those types of commentators and broadcasters and journalists. And those are the people who study the game and interview these guys and, you know, are paid to be experts on the game and the guys that play it. So it's not fair to me for you to say, oh, well, I'm calling for her job. She's not, you know, she doesn't even know what she's talking about.
Right.
You know, a clear mistake. But I don't know, were those 16 votes, those people that voted those 16 votes, I feel like they had, you know, they had their sense that day.
Yeah.
What happened to, you know, everyone else? Were those all mistakes? I don't know, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, and I'm not saying though that, okay, I think what LeBron is saying too in this clip is maybe that he's not pissed off. Like, he's obviously pissed off that he didn't get MVP. I just think he's more pissed off of the spread between the votes.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking LeBron James and Giannis, especially during this season. If it's 101 votes, I would expect something a lot closer.
Right.
You know what I mean? Maybe a 52-49.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And
yeah.
so maybe that's probably the part that kind of got him a little pissed off. But we'll see.
Right.
If he's going to play pissed off tonight and kind of show everybody. And I think the ultimate, you know, shit on them type moment would just be go crazy when you another NBA championship.
Exactly.
You know, and just add to your legacy.
Yeah.
And, you know, speaking of adding to your legacy, his son is starting his legacy, right, already. Bronny James, right, he posted on his close friends on Instagram him smoking weed. I almost said something I shouldn't have said, but this little boy, to me, it's funny, right? He's a high school kid, you know, and I'm not going to sit here and act like either of us are perfect. I'm not going to act like people that I know are perfect. Only thing I say to that is, Bronny, why are you posting it on Instagram?
That's all it is why did you post it? Because I'm not even questioning why you did it. To be honest, if we're being candid, I'm not questioning why you did what you did. You know, because you were a pro. You know, you didn't just hit it. You okay? You sucked it back and you knew what you was doing. That wasn't your first time. You know, so you knew what you were doing.
Oh, weak.
So, but why post it? Like, come on, Bronny, come on.
Yeah.
That's my only grievance with it is like, why did you post it? That's it.
What do you think his parents? Do you think his parents are like for real mad, or how do you think they handled it?
Personally, I mean, I think Savannah, you know, is probably like same thing like me and you, like, oh, why did you post it? You know, we have such a big platform. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to be mindful of those things. To me, I mean, if I had to guess, LeBron is probably the type like, hey man, come on, man. Like when I leave this bubble, yeah, we're gonna have a talk, me and you. It's gonna be me and you, and mostly me, okay? Like real talk. But I mean, he's a kid. He's not doing anything that 16-year-olds, privileged 16-year-olds in LA. Way worse. He could be doing way worse. He's not doing anything that his friends aren't doing, that most, you know, high school kids aren't doing. Yeah. And I just hate that journalists try to just make this whole big narrative about LeBron and his parenting and all that. Like, just all of that stuff is too much for me.
Need to stay away from stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. You know, because kids are going to be kids. Think about, you know, when I was 16, oh my gosh. Like, real talk, like I said, we're being candid, man.
Yeah.
You know? So, and I wasn't a privileged kid living in Beverly Hills, you know, at 16. Mm-hmm. And I was still, you know, acting out. And I feel like everybody does at that age. Yeah. You know? So, we can't call for LeBron's parenting and those sorts of things, you know.
It's more so just funny to me.
Honestly. It is.
And as Stephen A. would say, lay off the weed.
That's my guy.
He be going on. But all right, enough about Bronny. All right, so enough about LeBron. We talked about Lakers Nuggets. Heat Celtics matchup. We're going to go over that a little quickly, right? I think that's a great matchup, right?
It is.
The Heat, they are up 2-1. The Celtics, they shit the bed the first game. They should have won that game. It really should be Celtics up 2-1 right now. But I think the Heat, like, I like the Eastern Conference, and those two teams are there for a reason. They're young teams, and they just want to work. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you watch them play, and it kind of reminds you of like AAU almost. And,
Yeah.
you know, watching those different games. And I really enjoy watching them play. They're a bunch of young guys. They're going to be the face of the NBA, you know, once LeBron decides to retire and, you know, the Kawhis and the ADs get older and then they go on as well. But those two teams are really kind of like the future in a sense. Like you got Tyler Hero, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, who's been playing amazing. You know, Marcus Smart, Kemba. I love Kemba.
Yeah.
Days. You know, just a solid point guard. So I think that's a great matchup. I think Jimmy Butler has done a great job of kind of leading that team in a sense. But we know how Jimmy Butler gets down, right? Nitty gritty. He's gonna defend. He's gonna talk his crap, but he always performs. One thing that I like about Jimmy Butler, and you know, people may say, okay, well, you said with LeBron, you expect him to kind of overperform. With Jimmy Butler, I just don't think he's a LeBron type player. I think that he is best when he does get his team involved.
Yeah.
You know, and I really, quite frankly, I don't want to see Jimmy Butler taking him. This man been going off. Last night he didn't play as well, but he had 29 points the first game, and he had 25 the second game, and was a big reason of why they won those games in the first place. So, what do you think about this matchup? Who do you think comes out on top? Do you think the Celtics can come back being down 2-1?
I love this matchup. This is probably my favorite matchup thus far in the playoffs. Mostly because I love how Jason Tatum plays. And I'm also a huge Kobe fan, and RIP. And with him training with Kobe right before Kobe passed, and Tatum just, I feel like, has just turned it up. And he plays, this is what, maybe Tatum's third year in the league?
Yeah.
And he plays like, you know, 7th, 8th year. He plays like a true vet to me. He plays like that's his Celtics team. And when you can go out the Celtics and have Marcus Smart in double figures, you have Jason Tatum in double figures, you have Kemba in double figures, you have Jaylen Brown in double figures. Like you just said, it's hard to beat a team.
Yeah.
And they not even just double figures, they all had 20 balls. All of them.
And they got Gordon Hayward back now.
Yeah. You know, that's a hard team to beat. Truthfully, I want to see that Celtics-Lakers matchup again this year. That's what I want. But I love how the Heat plays. Bam, Adebayo.
That block was nuts.
Man.
In game 1.
Man, you talk about a post player that I just can just love to watch. And I mean, I really watch post players, and he has that spark. He has that, like you said, like they fly around, they play like they're laying it all out on the line. And I love watching that type of basketball. And I love that Jimmy Butler could leave a team like the Sixers, and you know they tried to call him, you know, toxic locker room player, all those types of things that they love to say.
When you leave team, right?
They love to
say, like transferring college.
Yeah, they love to say those types of things about players who, you know, are outspoken or, you know, aren't in the traditional type of way of firing their teammates up. But you see it's working. In South Beach, it's working. You know what I mean?
Everywhere else, too. I mean, the Sixers, they had one of their best runs, you know what I mean, when Jimmy Butler was on their team. The Timberwolves, you know I'm from Minnesota. I don't even want to talk about it. But we made it to the playoffs when Jimmy Butler was on our team.
Yeah.
It just seems like he expects I don't even think he expects them to go out and win every single game.
Right.
I think with him, it's just about working hard and, you know, not cheating the grind. You know what I'm saying? Going out there, you know, not backing down from anybody. And that's what he has with Miami. You know, Tyler Hero kind of hood.
Man, when I tell you that court swag, that's another thing, too, that I love to look at. And Tyler Hero has it.
Yep.
He has it. And, like, it kind of reminds me of Joe Burrow. Like they kind of both have that. You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah. Like I
know I'm the shit.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And I just love that swag, because that can bring a whole different type of confidence and element, not only just to a player but to a whole team. Because if I look over and my teammate, you know, walk in the building like he the shit and he gonna drop 20, you know, I'm gonna have to rise. You know, or I gotta rise. And I feel like, again, that's why I feel like the Heat are just. They're just so well rounded, and they play so hard, and they have so many pieces that work so well together. It's hard to say because I really want to see that Celtics-Lakers matchup, but I love how the Heat are playing right now as well. So it's hard. It's a toss up.
Ooh. I'm gonna say if the Celtics, if the Celtics do the way they did the zone last night, because for some reason I don't know why they're a professional team. There's no way a zone should be kicking your ass.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
So if they continue to beat the zone, and you know how to beat zones, right? First of all, you got to play better defense. so you don't even allow them to set up half the time.
Exactly.
Right? You kind of keep them on their heels and things like that. But if they do what they did to the zone last night, I think the Celtics will come out on top in this instance. But they are going to have to contain Jimmy Butler, because I feel like Jimmy Butler has been playing a little coy. But if Jimmy Butler gets on his, I mean, the man ain't cut his hair since the playoffs started.
Yeah, on his bully.
I don't know what's going on with Jimmy Butler. It must be working.
Yeah.
He got to the Eastern Conference Finals. But they have to contain him, and they can't really, let him kind of get in his bag. Because I think if that happens, and then you have Hero, they definitely feed off Jimmy Butler, in a sense. And if they keep him contained and they can beat that zone, I can see the Celtics tying it up 2-2 and then going on to win. So that's my pick. We are going to see. I definitely think it's probably going to go to a Game 7. Though.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that.
Yeah. So, all right. Now we're going to transition over to the NFL. I really don't have much to say with the NFL, right? I haven't been able to watch too many games, but I did watch that first game. And, I must say that I'm disappointed. The first game of the season, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. And considering the climate, that's going on today, I feel like sometimes people don't really understand that it's not always about sports and that people have lives. And that whether you like to hear it or not, you can try to claim that racism doesn't exist, everyone's equal. We all know that's not true, and if you think that it is, I feel sorry for you, But the players, before the game, they linked arms to show kind of like solidarity, unity, just a stand against police brutality for the people that lost their lives, and the Chiefs fans were booing them. And I sit there and I watch stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, you're booing them before the game because they're doing this, and it could have been that the Texans, they went in the locker room for the national anthem. For the Black national anthem, right, lift their voice and sing, and also for the national anthem that we've been singing for the past century or so. And it could have been because of that, but the announcer said, we want to have a moment of silence, and just to do something like that during a time like it's just so disrespectful. And it's like, what do you really stand for? You can really bring yourself to do something like that during a moment of silence. I mean, you can be an asshole all you want any other time, but you can't not be an asshole for a moment, to just show that you stand in solidarity with your brothers and sisters who may not look like you. I think it was despicable, really. I really don't know how to explain it. It's 2020, so it's crazy that we're still even talking about this.
It is, and it was just like you said, it was so ugly. Like, that's just so, like, we're coming together, y'all, we're coming together, like you said, in a moment of unity, solidarity. I didn't take a knee. I didn't do any of that. All I said was, this is my brother. Mm-hmm. This is my brother, yep. Whether he's black, white, purple, or green. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're my brothers. We're locking arms. We're showing y'all that we are united together. And you boo? You know what I mean? It's like,
just to cheer 10 minutes later when the game starts. Like,
you boo them for a minute, and then you sit there for 3 hours and watch them tackle each other. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's my whole thing with, a lot of these people who just, like, they can't understand what the movement is actually about. And it's like, you feel like, this movement, Black Lives Matter, whatever movement it is, you feel like it's anti-white.
Mm-hmm. Or anti-America.
And it's never been that.
Yep.
Just because it's pro-black doesn't make it anti-white or anti-America, but they feel like pro-black automatically means, oh, well, if that's pro-black, it must be anti-white. Yeah. That's not the case. You know what I mean? But for Black people to have been marginalized in society for ever, mm-hmm. for literally the history of America, mm-hmm. and for us to, try to take that back and say, okay, well, at least we're united. You know what I mean? At least we're united in this moment. And then for you to still boo them in that moment, it just shows that, it was never about, to you, it was never about, well, all lives matter. Because if all lives mattered to you,
Black lives would have to.
They would have to, right? And I hate to say this, not really, but it's like, you know, people can call for, you know, unity in other areas as far as like gender and sexuality and all those sorts of things. But as soon as someone says, well, hey, you know, Black people too, it's like, whoa, chill out. You know what I mean? Like,
relax.
And then don't let you be Black and queer. You know what I mean? Because that's a whole different, you know what I mean? You're fighting two demons at the same time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so it's like, people don't really think about it in those ways. They kind of they're just like, oh, well, you know, I'm traditional and I'm American and I'm white and I stand for the flag, and how dare you take a knee? You know what I mean?
That's how everybody should be.
And it doesn't make sense to me. And it's like, and I love and I appreciate so much people who are not Black who can recognize it and be like, man, they're crazy. Like, why are they booing, or it's never been all lives matter, or those types of things. You know what I mean? I love them because they get it. And it's like, I just hope that y'all can, you know, go on and raise y'all kids that won't be as hateful as, you know, those older generations. And I mean, there's people our age who are still as hateful because they're still being raised by people who feel like all lives matter, and they feel like, you know, locking arms in a moment of unity is anti-American or anti-white. Me taking a knee saying, hey, maybe you shouldn't kill, you know, shoot Black people, you know, for reaching in their pocket or for selling loose cigarettes or, you know what I mean? Maybe we shouldn't kill these people. That's literally all Kaepernick was saying is, let's not kill them. Let me take a knee to not kill these unarmed Black people. That's all it ever was. And then you got, I mean, I know this is kind of off subject, but, and then you add Kaepernick to the Madden game this year.
Now you want to listen to him because it's a cool thing to do now, right? Every company wants to be, socially woke about what's going on, when it's like, we've been screaming and hollering for decades. Please treat us equally. You know what I mean? We can talk about reparations, right? Equality and equity. What we really need is equity, but that's a whole other story, right?
Right.
But I just sit there and I look at some of these companies, and maybe they do truly care. I will say I am glad that they're speaking up. So let's say you have this old CEO who really don't give a damn.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? At home, I really don't even care. I think it's important that the companies at least show that they stand in solidarity. At the same point in time, though, you have to practice what you preach. It's not enough to just put out a video and say, hey, we stand for these issues. What are you doing? Where are you donating to? You know what I mean? What is your CEO or, you know, the people that you work for believe in, or do those values align? I'm not saying everyone has to be exactly the same, but it's just more so like, practice what you preach. To those that don't understand, at this point, I don't think there's anyone that doesn't understand. I just think people choose not to understand because they truly believe that there's this power dynamic, right? And I don't want to go too off tangent, right? But it seems like throughout America and just America's history, it has always been an aspiration to whiteness.
Yeah.
And so the minorities, you know, we fight with each other because we're trying to see how close we can get to whiteness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in the history books and everything like that, they pretty much kind of brainwashed us to make it seem like that white is supreme.
Yeah.
And they got us fighting with each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the same token, though, we're all just equal. Why can't we all just be treated equally? It's just America has such a treacherous history that instead of trying to fix it, they try to cover it up.
Yeah.
Wounds will reopen if not healed properly. And that's what the main issue is. And you see that with fans booing in a moment. And so, last two things I want to talk about, right? College sports. That's kind of like, you know, what we've been talking about a lot. And they got hit the hardest, especially we didn't get a March Madness this year.
Yeah.
And that was kind of shocking to a lot of people. But college football has started back up. Some conferences have started, some have not. It's kind of weird because some stadiums are like, okay, no fans at all. Some are like, okay, we are going to have fans, but only to like 25 or 30% capacity. You know, so it's interesting seeing the way that they're doing things. The Big Ten, who thought that they were going to postpone it to the spring, they actually just announced that they'll be starting like the week of October 23rd.
Right.
And that's where we're from. So that's exciting to see. So that has been pretty cool seeing that college football started back up again. It is weird that it is a little bit delayed, but I think it's been fun, especially just for fans. You know, COVID, we've been working from home. People are kind of going crazy, you know what I mean? And just I think sports is giving us kind of like a hint back at normalcy.
Yeah.
That some people just kind of need. You know what I mean? And sports brings a lot of people together. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. I haven't been able to watch too many teams as far as college football. I caught Miami.
Yeah, I know you did. Why you catch Miami, Daddy?
No reason. Just watch their game versus UAB, and then watch their game last night versus Louisville. And their offense is really, really good. And even just, I mean, they were trending last night on Twitter, just talking about their offense. And I guess historically, or in recent history, Miami hasn't been, very good. And historically, they have been. They've won, I think, 4 or 5 national championships. So for them to, have that history and then, struggle, it's always like that, with a program when they, come from greatness and then they have that big gap where they haven't won. I think the last championship they won was in 2001. Okay. So 19 years without winning a championship, it's like, okay, everyone's kind of like scrambling. When are we going to, get better, whatever. So to have Derek King leading that offense and to have them, scoring on majority of their drives like they do, it shows the improvement that they're making. And like I said, that's the only team that I have been able to catch as of late. I am excited to watch our Hoosiers play in October, and a lot just Big Ten football in general. I love. I mean, that's what we know. So we're huge fans of it. I know the SEC is starting. I think this following Saturday. Yeah. And Pac-12, I don't think has came out and said that they're restarting.
They're trying to come to a resolution on when they may start.
Right.
I think they're the only Power 5 conference that hasn't.
They haven't. And it's funny to me, not funny, but it's just how the Big Ten, pump faked and were like, oh, we won't start until the spring. Yeah. And then they saw all these other conferences playing, and then Nebraska had players come out and said that they were going to sue the school and all this type of stuff because people were losing their senior season. So then they just were like, okay, we're gonna restart in October. So and I know a lot of stuff happened with the Pac-12 too, Pac-12 United and all of their players coming out, and I think that's just. I think that's so big too with just unfinished business and what it's all about, just that voice for college athletes. And when they came out and said, we're united, we want you guys to be, aware of, social injustice and all these sorts of things. And it's crazy because my best friend, his cousin actually went to Washington State. Okay. And they cut him from the team when he came out and said that he was a part of the Pac-12 United. And he's been interviewed by, all sorts of Dallas newspapers and everything like that because you can't do stuff like that. Like you can't, and I know at IU we had the Student Bill of Rights, and I know other schools have things like that in place where it's just like you can't do those sorts of things to people, especially when they're, coming from Dallas, Texas, going all the way to Washington. You know what I mean?
You cut him because he's a part of a group,
right?
Explain to the people what the Pac-12 United actually is.
So basically, they came out and said, the certain COVID guidelines that we want to make sure are in place before we come out and play and perform and put our bodies on the line, put our health on the line, because they have said that a lot of athletes who got COVID afterwards were having a lot of heart dysfunctions and all those sorts of things. And so naturally, if you're an athlete, whether you want to go play professional sports or not, you want to make sure you protect your body. That's your moneymaker. Exactly. And so that was a lot of what went on about the Pac-12 United, was just making sure that they were protected. Also, if they decided to opt out of the season, that they would not be penalized and they wouldn't have to sit out had they decided to transfer to a different school, which makes complete sense to me. And then they also mentioned being paid for their likeness in the Pac-12 United, thing as well. So, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Some of the demands were kind of outlandish, especially. You do.
Start scratching stuff off the list anyway.
You do, and you definitely have to, and that's what they did, and I'm glad they did because they had never seen anything like that. They also wanted to start a college football players association, which is
like the NBA has.
Huge, absolutely huge. Because think about it, they've never had anything like that. They think, oh, you're students. What do you need?
And that's what pisses me off about college sports.
Yeah.
It's like, we live that, so we know more than anyone.
Yeah.
They expect you to act like an adult, but treat you like a kid.
Exactly.
And I will never understand it. They know that it's a business, and I'm glad everyone is starting to see just how much of a business it actually is. And the way they do things is shoddy business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm grateful to have been able to play at the collegiate level, get a full ride scholarship, forever grateful. At the same point in time, when I look back on certain things, and other people may not agree because they think that student athletes just live this lavish lifestyle.
Exactly.
That we shouldn't complain about anything. Yeah, we get a free education. Yes, we get meals. We kind of need the meals, though, because we work out 2-3 times a day.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, it is a business. We should have player associations. You know what I mean? We should not be getting cut for speaking out or something like that, because you guys can use our face all over billboards. You know, you can use it anywhere you want to, and we can't get paid for it. You and I both know we knew football players whose families were struggling.
Yes,
you know
absolutely.
What I mean? Struggling. They say, well, you get the stipend every month. You know, we were blessed that we didn't have to send that home to our parents.
Some
but
people
how
did.
many people did we know that needed to send that money back home to their parents, you know, to their family, to make sure that they're good? You know what I mean? These are kids that the university is probably making millions off of.
Absolutely.
And they don't get paid anything other than stuff that's just going to support them. Our stipend paid for our rent, right? Food, because we don't get fed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they would give us maybe like $10 after the game or something like that. It differs from school to school. But, you know, that's about it. And whatever they decide to do with that money, quite frankly, they deserve that money because we put in work. And I don't think people understand that. You know, I look back all the time and I say, dang, I wish, you know, there were times I wish that I was a regular student for a little bit longer. We missed out on a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot that you have to give up. So it's really unfortunate that they cut him because I feel like those demands weren't outlandish. I feel like, you know, like you said, they're trying to protect their bodies, and you're going to cut someone because they want to protect their bodies. COVID is no joke for a lot of people. Some people have lost family members to COVID, and they're at the base level, they were asking for simple things, right? Just put in measures to make sure, you know what I mean, to try to contain the spreading, you know, do something, do this and that, pay for our likeness, which schools across the country are already starting to do that. California. They kind of started that. We wrote an article on that. So I'm glad that he's getting the press that he deserves, and I think that he should milk it.
Absolutely.
All of the way, try to get any and everybody on top of that as he should, because they shouldn't have did that, and they need the pressure put on them.
Exactly. And I think, like you said, a players association, it's new and it's something that nobody has ever done. You know what I mean? But the NCAA, I'm not going to call them corrupt or anything like that, but sure. I think that for people like me and you who, you know, were in it for 3-4 years, we understand how it works, and we understand how coaches can go from being an amazing person who really cares about you, who you know, knows your family and you know, really is your family away from home, and they can kind of just be, you know, just mixed and construed and pushed to a point where they are no longer that person. They're no longer that person that you can go to and talk to, because it's like, I can't even trust you anymore because, you know what I mean? You're so worried about your job and this business, and you know what I mean? You're more worried about your job and this business than you are about the well-being of someone that you...
An 8-year-old girl or young man.
Exactly.
And that's the sad part.
Exactly.
And we got plenty of time to talk about that.
Exactly.
This is the first episode. So.
Man.
we got a ton to talk about, y'all.
We do.
So, you know, last thing that I want to mention, NCAA basketball, they did just say, I saw an article, the season's going to start November 25th.
Yep.
And I think that's super exciting. I'm ready to watch. You know, one thing that I did think about, though, is that as we enter these times and you're not going to have seats filled up, some people may not have fans at all. Some only going to have a certain capacity, but I remember when they were first talking about maybe ending the season early with COVID, and they were saying we're not going to end the season, but we're just going to play without fans.
Yeah.
I remember players were pissed, like, why would you play without fans and this, that, and the other, and you know, it kind of comes around full circle because as they went this amount of time, you know, seniors missing out on March Madness and not being able to do those things, it comes around full circle because it's like, now I bet you those players would just be willing to play if only their parents are in the stands.
Exactly.
Like, they don't care who's in the stands because they went so much time without it. And, you know, you kind of take certain things for granted. And they might have thought that they didn't want to play with fans, but now I bet that they don't care who's in the stands. They're just ready to play. So
exactly.
I think that that's just kind of like a teaching moment for just a lot of players, you know what I'm saying, and getting back to the reason why you love the game.
Yeah, and my heart, I'm telling you, it broke for those seniors who didn't even get to have that final moment or that, you know, their senior night or whatever. Well, I think a lot of them had senior nights, but a lot of them didn't get to go out, you know, with a tournament win or a loss or whichever it may have been. So my heart breaks for them, and I'm so glad that, you know, they have put a start date and people can get back into the motion of things. But like you said, I mean, going from having your season pulled completely taken away from you and you're kind of just, you know, on your own from that point, hell, I would play with, you know, I don't care who's in the stands, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just, hey, I just want to be able to get out there and play. So, I'm so glad who do you think are the teams to watch? I mean, it's kind of weird for me because I'm not going to lie, like, after COVID and there was no March Madness, like, I feel like my brain was completely, like, erased of, like, every team.
So that's a hard question for me.
It is, yeah.
I really don't know. I kind of got to get back into it.
Yeah.
In the NBA, and like that's the only thing that I've been focused on, and I haven't even thought of college. I've been ever since I graduated, really just been kind of removed from it. Yeah. In a sense, and I still watch, but I definitely have to kind of tune back in and see. You know, obviously, I want to see how Kentucky looks on the men's side, Duke, and all those. On the women's side, I don't think Notre Dame. You know, Muffin McGraw, she retired, but I think Niele Ivy,